This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast. It's time to talk about Crown Jewel, the one that took place last night in Saudi Arabia. And I've got Anthony DeMarco here to cover the show with me and go through match by match about our opinions and get into all the nitty-gritty details as we always do. But Anthony, welcome to the show. And I have to ask you right off the bat, how did you like the show kind of overall?
I mean, it was a good wrestling show. I thought most of the match shows delivered from an in-ring perspective. I thought Drew and Seth was incredible, as I'm sure most of us assumed it would be. I thought the women's match, aside from Nia Jax, was actually good from an in-ring perspective. I feel like if you had just eliminated Nia Jax and it had been a fatal four-way, I think we would be talking about it way more positively. Roman and LA Knight, I think, was a good match until the typical bloodline tomfoolery on the outside, which I'm sure we'll get to. I just wasn't a huge, I guess, fan of the overall, not deliverance, but I guess outcome of the pay-per-view, because it just felt that nothing really changed. And it was supposed to feel like a big pay-per-view. It's been presented like a big pay-per-view, arguably taking the place of Survivor Series as like a big four pay-per-view. And I just feel like no monumental shift happened. And we've been talking a lot about how like WWE's creative has kind of been stuck in the mud a bit. The reason why we took off last week from our typical weekly show of Current State was because we both felt that there was nothing really to talk about in terms of the larger scale creative part of WWE. So while the in-ring stuff was very, very good, which has become a hallmark of the Triple H era, I just don't really see how anything changed from a major pay-per-view. And for that, I came away a little disappointed.
Yeah, this one, again, as we talked a little bit off the air, I don't think this was a bad pay-per-view, a PLE. I thought this was a good average to slightly above average PLE. I think the crowd honestly felt very underwhelming at times, and I've heard people say, oh my God, this is one of the better crowds. I don't know what crowd they were listening to, but outside of the LA Knight entrance, John Cena, and of course Cody Rhodes, especially for the women's entrances and matches, they were, I mean, it was like a morgue, and they were very, very selective of who they were cheering for, and a lot of times I saw them sitting there. So I don't know what it was, but the crowd at times really took away from me for some of the matches. But you're right. The women's match minus Nia Jax, I think, would have been better had she not been there. I mean, some of the things she did were just, I mean, it just literally looked like she was just lazy in a lot of the things she did. Like one of the breakup pins that she did, she just like, it was the most lazy kick I've ever seen. I think it was, I don't know who it was, but yeah, Nia Jax never been my favorite ever. And, you know, that outcome, of course, was as predictable as it could have been, but the right one. So I have no complaints about the outcome there. But starting with Roman, I want to start there because that was the last thing we saw and probably the biggest match on the card, you know, arguably. So LA Knight loses, okay, but in a losing effort, I think he had a really good match. He had, I think, as good of a match as you could have hoped for, given the fact that this is the first time on WWE's main stage he has had this type of spotlight. So he got, I think, enough time to tell a story. He didn't have any botches. He looked like he belonged. The crowd was 100% behind him. And then we get Jimmy Uso. As expected, it's Jimmy Uso. And that caused the distraction enough for Roman to take advantage. And it's the same thing, rinse and repeat, that we've seen for like 3.5 years, for the majority of, not all of Roman Reigns' run. So as you said, yeah, I mean, we get another Roman Reigns win, and rumor has it he's not going to be back to the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, You know what the thing is that you see the two differences between the world title matches, the heavyweight and the undisputed, one that opened the show, one that closed the show. And the heavyweight championship was just a good wrestling match by two incredible in-ring workers, mano a mano. The champion retains clean. The undisputed championship match was, two very good workers. I thought this match over-delivered. And I believe you mentioned this on your preview show that going into a lot of pay-per-views, we've been underwhelmed and we come out like surprisingly happy because of how good the in-ring quality had been compared to the build-up. And I thought that the LA Knight Roman Reigns build-up was not good whatsoever, as I'm sure you agreed as well, and we have talked about. And it felt rushed and it felt predictable and all these things. But once they got going, it was a good match, and you kind of felt that LA Knight belonged. But then, like you said, the predictable interference from the Bloodline, the predictable interference by Jimmy Uso, and the predictable ending of, spear, 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 1, 2, 3, Roman Reigns retains. And like you said, now he's scheduled to miss another 2.5 months. And the one thing about this was, and I think it was the first time probably since the Royal Rumble that you went in, or at least I went in, knowing 100% that Roman Reigns was coming out as champion. And again, predictability isn't always a bad thing, but when it is this predictable for the World Championship or the Undisputed Championship in this case, and for a guy as hot as LA Knight has been over the last 5 to 6 months, I thought it really hurt this match. And for it to end in such a predictable and repetitive fashion, we've spoken about this numerous times, but I really do think it's getting to a boiling point where we've reached now without denial that it is at the point of what do they call it? Diminishing returns? Is that's I guess
it's a kind way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the phrase, but I think that we have now reached that point with Roman Reigns and his title run.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yes. I mean, that is a very professional, nice way to put it, of that, I don't think people are even sick of the Roman Reigns character. They're just tired of the championship itself being hibernated and being locked away and only being very selectively brought out. No one can talk about it. And, you see Roman and you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll see you in 4 months. It's just, it's heat on the company at this point. That's the difference. It's not even heat on Roman Reigns himself. We know Roman isn't responsible for this. WWE agreed to this schedule. That Roman Reigns has got a dream schedule, and great, good for him, wonderful. I'm jealous of it. We all are, but it's on the company. That's the difference. They're the ones who are calling the shots. They are the ones who are saying that this is a good idea. For whatever magical payoff they have for all of this, which, as you and I have discussed, it doesn't. To me, there's no such thing as a payoff for what they've done all these months and years now. Of like, oh, well, that was totally worth it. There's nothing they could come up with at all, ever. There's nothing that exists in this world that they could really do that will make all of this absentee champion stuff go away and be worth all of that and sacrificing guys' careers. Really, I mean, that's what you're doing at this point, as we've said. So, I mean, but back to LA Knight, I mean, I guess from here he goes after Jimmy Uso and probably has some matches with him, and then maybe eventually challenges for the United States Championship with Logan Paul. We'll get to that match, but that probably seems where he's going. Is he'll maybe work with Jimmy, and even though he's not on SmackDown, or rather he is on SmackDown, if he is able to somehow transfer himself over and transfer and be able to work with Logan Paul, I'm sure that'll happen. But yeah, this looks like a little bit of a Jimmy program, and then off to the United States Championship, and then who knows at the Rumble at that point. I don't really know what the path forward is for LA Knight, but the follow-up here is going to be key.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the predictable outcome, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just kind of seems like what they've done with LA Knight. And look, it's hard to say if this was Triple H's doing or Vince McMahon got his grubby hands in it. Like, I'm trying to figure out the timeline here and when Vince was removed from creative by Ari Emanuel and like when his push started, if it correlated, because the way he got pushed just right to the top of the card seemed completely opposite of the approach that Triple H was taking with him, in the summer and all the way up to SummerSlam. And like, it just feels like somewhere along the lines, there was like an overcorrection, but to like an overcorrection to the worst proportions. Like, I don't know if over the summer Vince was, halting them from pushing LA Knight, and then Triple H, I guess, was overcorrecting in the last month, or if Triple H was the one slow playing it, and then Vince overcorrected by trying to push him to the moon, and then by the time Vince got taken out from creative, Triple H just like it had been too far gone, and they just had to roll with it. Or if this was all just Triple H's mishandling, but it just feels that, like, no matter what way you cut it, LA Knight was mishandled over the summer and into now. And mostly I feel like it's been since WrestleMania, because I like the slow burn approach. I thought when he won the Battle Royal at SummerSlam, even though it was mainly an exhibition match, I thought that they made the right call with that. But now it's like you said, are they going to transition him to the U.S. title? Like, I feel like he should have been doing that since the SummerSlam. And we'll get to Logan Paul as the U.S. champion as well. But, like, I don't know, like him feuding with Jimmy Uso, and I would imagine by extension the Solo Sikoa, like, it just feels very bizarre. Like, I still think that he's going to win the Royal Rumble, and he's going to go over to Monday Night Raw and challenge whoever the World Heavyweight Champion is post Royal Rumble at WrestleMania. That's where I still think his ultimate destination is, and he probably does walk out of WrestleMania as the World Heavyweight Champion. I'm still sticking with that prediction. But it just feels like a very odd detour they took with LA Knight going up against Roman Reigns in the main event. And that shouldn't be considered a detour. And even in a loss, LA Knight should still be considered a winner, because he put on a good match. He still main evented one of the biggest shows that they put on a year with the biggest star they have for the most coveted championship they have. But everything about LA Knight's handling since SummerSlam has been very, very peculiar to me, which is odd because it's been since that they've pushed him to the main event.
Yeah, it hasn't been the best. I wouldn't say it's been destructive, though. I think that they could have absolutely handled him better. But I also, and you, I think, had concurred with this, that they just did this much too soon. That knowing that they've done this, they did it so soon. You knew that there was no chance he was going to win, because it didn't feel like the right time. Even if you're an LA Knight supporter, even if you believe he is going to be champion at some point, it just felt it's like, oh, we want him champion, but like, it does feel too soon. And it to really tip the scales to the fact that we as fans understand, yeah, he's not going to win. There's no chance. And also the timing of it, not just that he was the first man up after Roman Reigns returned, but also the fact that it's November. And now that you're into November, WWE is very unlikely going to have Roman Reigns drop the belt before WrestleMania, because they're already thinking WrestleMania. I mean, with how much time Roman takes off between matches and television appearances, they're thinking, well, it's November. I mean, next time we talk to and see him, it's going to be a WrestleMania season, so we can't have him lose the belt now, guys. For Roman Reigns, it's WrestleMania season already. I mean, he's living in an alternate time and space continuum here, so it's different for Reigns. And I think that LA Knight probably is still the favorite to win the Rumble, and I could see him going over to Raw and challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship, as I think you would probably concur as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but on the SmackDown side of things, I would imagine we both think it's going to be Cody Roman Reigns Part 2.
Yeah, I imagine so. I'm not sure how they get there, because Cody Rhodes is on Monday Night Raw. I have they not used the Elimination Chamber? Well, last year it was for the United States Championship, but in the past they've used the Chamber as like a Royal Rumble, Part 2, where if you win the Chamber match, you become an undisputed number one contender for whatever world championship isn't being challenged for already.
Yep. So
I imagine that Cody Rhodes is going to win the Chamber in Australia in February. And look, for as much as I dislike the Cody Rhodes character, I'm just so ready for the Roman Reigns title run to come to an end that I'm okay with it. And to be honest, as much as The Rock and Roman Reigns is something we've all been longing for, even though it probably seems like that's never going to happen now, I almost rather them do Cody, because if Cody challenges Roman, we know 100% that he's walking out as champion. Like, there's no way Cody Rhodes is going to lose to Roman Reigns in back-to-back WrestleManias. But if it's The Rock, it's the opposite. It's like 100% chance that Roman Reigns is going to walk out as champion. And it's no slight on Roman Reigns. I actually really like Roman Reigns. I thought him mocking the LA Knight pointing thing was one of the funniest things he's ever done. Like, his facials, like the way he reacts to things, like, he really is arguably the best that they have right now, and one of the best of all time already at this point in his career. But it's just the schedule, it's the booking, it's the title reign, that it just feels like there's no more tread left on the tires. And short of turning babyface, which I think is coming somewhere down the line after he drops the title, like, there's just nothing more they could do to keep this title run alive. And I think that had they done Rock versus Roman last year, and then you could have had him turn babyface in the process, which it would have been in line with what The Rock said, like ending something but starting something at the same time, I think that maybe you could have pushed this another year. But as currently constructed, there's nothing left to do for Roman Reigns here. And you're going to artificially inflate this all the way to WrestleMania. But I'm sure for even someone like myself and you that doesn't like the Cody Rhodes babyface character, you would be ready to see the title go on him just so the Roman run comes to an end.
Does that not speak volumes as to where we stand now, that we have spent months totally wrecking Cody Rhodes' babyface character up and down and all around, and yet at the same time we will concede the fact that it is better to have that awful babyface character as champion if Roman Reigns is able to it drops the belt. Like, that tells you all you need to know about how far we've come and how much we're just done with this run. And I think fans are echoing this, and I'm sure WWE is sitting there going, oh, we're pushing them to the brink, we're getting them so angry. And it's like, yeah, but we're angry with you guys. Like, we're not angry with the character Roman. Like, the heat's not on Roman, the heat is on you guys for continuing this. And I'm sure the guys in the back are saying, what the hell, this is like, am I ever going to get an opportunity to main event? Like, if I'm on SmackDown and I'm on A Star on the Rise, I'm thinking to myself, when the hell am I going to get an opportunity to have a championship opportunity? Like, what, my career is being artificially capped because of creative's unmitigated decision and an indefinite decision to keep Roman as champion, and he's never there. So, like, I mean, it's not just the fans that are frustrated. I'm sure if you polled the people backstage, they would say, yeah, this is enough is enough. Like, it's reaching real life problems. It's not just, oh, fans being fair weather, fans were fickle. No, it's affecting people's actual livelihoods. I mean, if I was on SmackDown, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, and I guess we could kind of transition into the next match here, because this is a review, it's not a current state. But I want to talk about Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio. And when I made the prediction on my After Dark version, I said that I was predicting Rey Mysterio to win, with the caveat that if Logan Paul is committing to a semi-full-time run, it should be Logan. But now SmackDown has two part-time champions. And while I love Logan Paul as champion, and as much as I thought the Rey Mysterio run as US champion did fall flat, and as much as I think Logan Paul once again proved that he belonged, especially saving Rey Mysterio on what would have been a horrifying botch, like, that guy just gets it. And hate him or not on a personal level, you have to give him his flowers. The guy has just picked this up so fast. But as long as Logan Paul is at least semi-full-time, I think this is really good. But my worry here is that he's going to be part-time as well, and then SmackDown will not have a singles champion on the male side week to week. What are your thoughts?
That's my concern too. Now, I believe I did pick Logan Paul to win here, but I was concerned of the fact that, as you alluded to, they're going to have another part-time champion. But the thing is, Roman Reigns' schedule is just so outrageous that even if Logan Paul is there truly part-time, say once a month, even, or once or twice a month, it won't feel like he's actual part-time when you look at Roman. So I think that he has that going for him. Now, I don't know what Logan Paul's schedule is. I don't know if he is actually going to be there every week or if it's a short term. Hey, I need you to commit for 3 months, be there at least 80% of the time. I don't know what it is, but they certainly can't have Logan Paul go on a Roman Reigns schedule. That actually would be cannibalizing their own product to the point where, as you said, they're not going to have a singles championship for the male side at all, for
a male champion at all, not to cut you off, because the tag team titles live on Monday Night Raw, so your only champion on a week-to-week basis would be Io Sky.
Yeah, that's it. And we'll talk about that later too, but I think, that is a massive concern that I had, but I actually agree with the decision. That botch, if you guys go back and watch it, Logan Paul may have actually saved Rey Mysterio's life. I mean, he would have spiked his neck directly on the mat. It would have been catastrophic. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been. Maybe he just would have got a tweak of the neck or whatever, but he was headed for complete disaster. So I'm sure Rey Mysterio's family is extremely thankful for Logan Paul's heads up on that one just within inches of total devastation. And so props to Logan Paul there for catching on and being as really aware as he was. And of course, putting on a really good match. I had no issues with their match. I love the fact that he has cronies on the outside of the ring. Call him Brass Knucks. Brass Knucks. I miss Brass Knucks. It reminds me of William Regal. I love that part of his character so much. And I had no issue with the way he won. It protects Rey Mysterio. It continues to make him a heel. And Logan Paul, it just gets it. And he's good. So I had no issue with this.
How big of a buffoon does Santos Escobar look? Literally had the brass knucks and then just dropped them on the ring apron.
Yeah, perfectly on the... Yes, I saw that. Yeah. He looks like an idiot.
But, I don't know. Are they going for a Santos versus Rey, feud with no title on the line? Would you have any interest in that?
I mean, it's something for Rey to do. I don't know if it'll happen right away, but people have been wanting that to happen in a way that's more organic than Santos saying, "Oh, it's been my dream to face you, Rey," which was the last time they faced each other last month. So yeah, bring it on. I mean, the LWO, I'm sorry, you're boring. They just are. I mean, they are a babyface group of which we don't have a whole lot of those around. We certainly have enough heel factions in that. So I don't want them to totally break up just to break them up. We need to balance here. But Santos versus Rey, I mean, Santos can work his ass off. So I wouldn't mind that.
So you brought up Io Sky before and you said we'll get to it. I think you predicted Bianca Belair, but I don't think either of us were seeing the return of the Pirate Princess or whatever she's called. Yeah. Overall, what are your thoughts on the outcome of that match, the match itself, where they're heading, all that?
Yeah, the match itself, I thought it was actually better than I expected, and I think when I was in it, I was a little bit bored by it, but I think what bored me was the crowd not being invested at all in this. I mean, it took them a while to get going on this, and I don't think they ever really kicked it into gear, and so the crowd really was just quiet during this match. Even Kairi Sane's return was, people are looking at her like, who's this? Is that Asuka? Who's this? I mean, so I'm sure some people were looking at her going, I don't even know who this is. And I know that she teams with Asuka, and Asuka and her are really, I guess from what I understand, really good in real life friends. And so I'm sure Asuka is glad to see her back. But Kairi Sane and now Io Sky seem to be allied, and Bailey, who wore some very interesting pants that are getting a lot of attention on social media if you're interested in such things, got knocked down by Io Sky, and I thought that was here we go, we're finally getting Io Sky and Bailey splitting, but that was just a tease. That never happened. Io Sky was saved by Kairi Sane, and I could deal without the Pirate Princess crap. She doesn't look like a Pirate Princess, whatever that's supposed to mean. I think they could drop that. I don't know why that's a thing, but if she's back and she wants to team herself with Io Sky, cool. But I actually was not a fan of Io Sky's run thus far. Up to this point, I've been very bored by her run, and it's not really a referendum on her. It's on creative for essentially just making her a third wheel in like every story going on. You have it's Charlotte and Bailey, or Bailey, you know, and whoever, and then Bianca's back and she's looking for revenge. So it's never been about Io. She's felt like a complete just afterthought, and so I've been bored up to this point. So maybe things change.
I predicted Io to win because I thought that they were going to further building the eventual, I guess, breakdown of their feud and of Damage Control, and eventually get to Bailey and Io. And I think that's exactly where they're going with this. And as much as the Io run as champion has been a flop to this point, I think the only way that they could save it is if they eventually result in a Bailey babyface turn. And I thought Michael Cole did a good job pulling on the fact that the last time we saw Kairi Sane was against Bailey, when Bailey, I believe she was aligned with Sasha Banks. She was the SmackDown Women's Champion, and she was the person, I guess, who, I guess, in not so many, in like a backdoor, indirect way, there's the word I was looking for, kicked Kairi Sane out of the WWE. So it's long-term storytelling, probably unintentionally, but they still pulled off that, which was good. And look, I said on my After Dark show, I think there was that risk of pulling the trigger way too early on Io Sky, and I think they did that. But rather than pull the plug on it and just hit the ejector cable and giving the title back to Bianca Belair, they are really trying to string this out and build a story between Bailey and Io Sky. And to be honest, I'm ready to see a babyface version of Bailey, not just because of the pants she was wearing, but because I think that everyone is just ready for that. She's been a heel and the current version of herself since before COVID. I think she debuted when she started cutting up all the Bailey buddies. I believe that was the first ever SmackDown on Fox. So we're talking north of 4 years ago now. So I'm ready for Bailey as a babyface, and I think the crowd is too, and not the Bailey buddies version of Bailey. The current sarcastic, funny version of Bailey, but as a babyface. And I think that's where they're headed. And I'm ready to see Bailey as champion again, because she hasn't held gold since, I believe, was it Hell in a Cell when Sasha Banks ended her long reign as SmackDown Women's Champion. So I'm ready to see Bailey as champion, and I'm ready to see Bailey as babyface. And I think that's where this is ultimately going. And if that's where it's ultimately going, I think that they can maybe salvage this run for Io.
Yeah, I agree. I'm ready. Bailey is a character that's in need of a change, and I think that she's still more. She's got so much left to give, and we haven't really seen the other side of this evolved, more mature version of this character turn babyface. What does that look like? You know, as you said, I don't need a side ponytail back. You know, resurrecting the Bailey buddies. We don't need that, of course. But yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes, and yeah, I wish the best for Io, because I think she has more to give too, and I think that her, you know, ability to speak English needs to be showcased more. She can speak English. It's a little bit of a heavy accent, but we've gotten through that before, and I think that will really help her build her character. So, all right, well, let's move on. I want to talk about Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest. A match that a lot of us saw Cody Rhodes winning, and that's exactly what happened here with his triple crossroads that he just, I don't know why he feels he needs to hit three of those every time. I think it diminishes his finish. But I'll save my detailed thoughts for after yours. So what'd you think?
I guess it was just one of those matches that it served its purpose. It was predictable, but one of those cases where it being predictable wasn't a bad thing. I mean, predictable interference from on the outside, Jey Uso making the save, Cody Rhodes winning. There's not much left to say, because this could have easily been a main event of Monday Night Raw, but I understand why you wanted to get each of these guys on the pay-per-view. I mean, aside from the two world champions in Seth and Roman, you could make the case that these are the two most important singles competitors right now, especially given the fact of where they're positioning Cody between now and Mania, and especially given the fact that Damian Priest has the briefcase and is the enforcer of probably the biggest group in WWE right now. So you had to get them on the card. Why not put them against each other? I just feel like we've seen this version like time and time again, maybe not exactly a one-on-one match between the two, but we've seen the Judgment Day fighting the babyface contingent on Monday Night Raw so often, whether that be Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn, and now Cody Rhodes, now Jey Uso's coming to the fold. So it's a bit tiresome. I wonder where they're going to go on Monday Night Raw in that regard. Obviously, Drew is in flux here, and we'll get to that later. But predictable finish, a match that I think could have easily been on Monday Night Raw, but I understand why it was on the pay-per-view. But look, it served its purpose.
Yeah, I think they just wanted a way to get Cody on the show so the crowd could say, whoa. I think that's that's the whole purpose of this 11-minute match. Again, I have nothing bad to say about the match itself. I guess we're also going to tell the story of Damian Priest having a similar finish, and I forget the name of it. Somebody out there can probably correct me. I don't know the name of his actual Cody Rhodes. It's the Crossroads bootleg. I don't know what it is. But so they're telling that story, and it seems like he's moving through Damian Priest, as he said before the event, that this path he's back on, that he's back telling his story, whatever this silly bedtime story is that we all know is leading probably to Roman at 40, is right through Damian Priest, and that's exactly what he did here, and he did it convincingly and decisively. That tells you he is moving on. So Monday Night Raw tomorrow night should be very interesting in what his next steps are. I really hope he's done with the Judgment Day. I do. So, all right. Well, let's move on here. Let's talk. Where do I want to go? Let's talk about John Cena and Solo Sikoa. Your thoughts?
I'm not going to lie. I was watching this with a buddy, and I really hated this. I hated everything about this. Why is John Cena back? Like, are we just bringing him back to be a jobber and get crushed every time he's in a singles match? I mean, if you want to make Solo Sikoa win, which I disagreed with, I predicted John Cena, but if you want to make Solo win, fine, but he just beat the you-know-what out of him. Like, the way it ended, like just the repeated Samoan spikes, I'm just like, I came away from that match thinking, just like, you can never present John Cena as a formidable threat ever again. Ever again. You have killed all credibility to the John Cena character. And I know you're trying to build Solo Sikoa up as Umaga 2.0. And could he stop staring at his thumb like he's in a trance? Yeah. Like, I get it. They're building him to be Umaga 2.0, but it's a bit much now. Like, he has his damn thumb on his shirt. Like, it's enough. Like, it's enough with the thumb. Like, he stares at his thumb the way that Booker T would stare at his hand before he did the spin-a-Rooney. Like, I'm waiting for him to break out in like a Samoan Rooney or something when he's staring at his damn thumb. And I'm actually getting heated, like Cody Rhodes heated because of this. Like, it pissed me off because, look, I understand that they're telling the story of John Cena being over the hill and does he have it anymore? But, like, you could do that in a way that doesn't completely castrate all the character's credibility. And that's what they did. He's not won a match since, 2017, which, yes, it is misleading, and I do agree, but it's also how you lose those matches. And he got squashed. He got absolutely steamrolled, squashed, and this isn't like Gunther or Damian Priest or when Roman pretty much squashed him. It's Solo Sikoa. I'm sorry, is this guy like a budding world champion? Like, I don't think so. I get you're trying to push him as Mr. Dangerous, like, enforcer. And could we change his song? It literally sounds like it's made for a fat person walking to the ring. It's doing him no favors, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know. I came away from this thinking the entire thing was stupid. I don't think it helped Solo Sikoa as much as people maybe think it did. I thought that him using that Samoan spike like 50 times, and I don't think that's a stretch. How many times did he hit him when John Cena was like on the ground lifeless? I don't think it helped anyone. And now, and it sucks to say, but never, ever, ever bring John Cena back and present him as like a credible threat to anyone because you completely neutered that entire character's credibility.
Yeah. Okay. So much here. So I will say on some of the positives, or at least potential positives, and this is a much shorter list, but I will try, is that Solo did get the biggest match of his career. And John Cena is there to help build new stars. That is why he's back. Of course, payday. Let's be honest, he's there for money too. Who wouldn't be? But he's there in the give back part of his career to help build the next generation of stars. So that's exactly what the point of this match was. But that's kind of where this ends here, because was that accomplished? Did Solo Sikoa feel like a bigger star afterwards? And to that, I'll actually say I don't think so. But also, if we're learning anything from Austin Theory's victory over John Cena at WrestleMania last year, the answer to that is nope. And in fact, it actually tanked Austin Theory for quite a while. Not only did John Cena completely eviscerate Austin Theory on the microphone, and really Solo Sikoa, by the way, on SmackDown, completely like just chopped his nuts off. Let's be honest, because he's so good on the microphone. The key here for Solo is going to be follow-up. Do they do any kind of actual follow-up, unlike Austin Theory? So they could maybe salvage something from this if the idea is to help build Solo as a new star, or as a rising star, which I think it is. Now, as far as the 600 Samoan spikes, now let me just get this straight. So John Cena sells that he can't really talk on SmackDown because he got one Samoan spike the week before, even though it was a double taping. Fine. But then, Paul Heyman tries to tell us that, this is so Solo can take away the one thing that you're good at, the one strength you have, which is your communication. Well, if that's the case, and John Cena just got Samoan Spike 600 times, first of all, John Cena barely sold it after the match. He just kind of like raised his hand, like, thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed my performance. I'm leaving now. He didn't sell it at all. And then wouldn't we have wanted to see maybe blood coming out from his mouth? He's coughing up blood. If someone actually used that and spiked you in the neck that many times, you're in a neck brace. You should be stretchered out. You should be coughing up blood. Put a little blood pill in your mouth and you give us something. I know that blood isn't a thing anymore, but you can do a little bit of it in your mouth. Just like something to sell it a little more, other than John Cena saying, thanks, guys. Thanks for the thank you, Cena chants. And I'll see you probably around WrestleMania 40. I hated that. If that's the idea, I mean, John Cena shouldn't be able to ever speak again. But of course, that's not going to be the case. Then the match I thought was slow pace, which I don't hate slow pace matches, but it was the entire time a Samoan beatdown by Solo Sikoa, and it was 16 minutes long. And I thought the outcome was, I actually didn't hate the outcome if they do the follow up correctly. But John Cena, so he continues with his losing streak, and I'm sure we'll see John Cena in depression, and he'll come around. He'll probably be, honestly, an entrant in the Royal Rumble or at Rumble. That's when he'll return.
I think a lost art here is building someone in a loss. And I really think that Solo Sikoa could have been built in a loss here. And we had talked about it. I had talked about it. That the one thing missing with Solo Sikoa was a consistent, like a big time feud, like not an extension of the bloodline or like him, fighting Cody Rhodes off of Roman Reigns' behalf, but like a personal feud. And I think he had this with John Cena, but I think it could have done a lot for the character development had he taken a loss here. And I know that he doesn't need it, but like you just mentioned, like, beating John Cena or beating a legend doesn't automatically elevate you. And look at what losing to Steve Austin did for Kevin Owens. Like, nobody remembers that he lost to a 55-year-old Stone Cold Steve Austin. We remember that he put on a hell of a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I just feel like I'm going to look back, and I won't speak for everyone. So with me, it's like, I'm going to look back onto the Solo Sikoa character neutering arguably the best character of the last 2 decades and the strongest character of the last 2 decades, just completely obliterating John Cena. And how old is John Cena? Like, I know we're supposed to be looking at him that he's over the hill and all this, but how old is John Cena? 45? To what age did The Rock wrestle and look like a top tier threat? What age did Taker? What age did Triple H? We just saw Stone Cold Steve Austin defeat Kevin Owens 18 months ago. HBK, like 45, yes, you're past your prime, but it's not like you're a decrepit old man anymore. And like John Cena could theoretically wrestle 2-3 times a year for the next 5 years. And what, you just want to destroy his entire character for like a mid-range? And let's be honest here, like I don't think Solo Sikoa is the next face of the company. Like they're making him Umaga. That's what they're making him. I can't even speak. A literate Umaga. That is what they're making Solo Sikoa to be. And I don't see why this had to be an outcome here. Because for me, I know that they're going to bring John Cena back. I know this is a massive story arc, but he has been on like the same arc now for years. And I think they made a mistake with how badly he lost to Roman Reigns 2 SummerSlams ago, or I guess 3 SummerSlams ago at this point. And I just really think that they've completely chopped the legs out from the John Cena character. And not to say I want him to, be the world champion or bury all this up and coming talent. But if you want to use John Cena as a way to really elevate guys, and when someone beats him, it feels like a big deal, you can't have him look like that. And I don't think they learned their lesson with Theory. And at least with Theory, he won by hook or crook, and it wasn't a complete domination. They ruined the John Cena character, and I don't view that character. Like, anytime they try and present the John Cena character as, like, a threat now or the greatest of all time, that's going to be my visual, is him just being annihilated by Solo Sikoa.
Yeah, I think there's a distinction to be made here, and I made this point on my previous show that nothing John Cena could do at this point, I mean, I really do believe this still, that there's almost nothing he could do that would tarnish his career as a whole. When we look back at his Hall of Fame career, I very much doubt that we're going to be thinking of, oh, well, remember, he would be a Hall of Famer, but he got, destroyed by Solo Sikoa for 20 minutes. But I'm not saying that doesn't mean his character currently isn't damaged. It's just, to me, as a whole, I don't look at his career any differently. I don't look at his accomplishments any differently because, to be honest, he doesn't have to be here right now. He really doesn't. I mean, I'm sure he wants the money. That's true, but he also doesn't have to be here. He could be doing other projects. He could be I know that there's a writer's strike, but he could still be doing other things. And so I know what he's trying to do, and it's admirable that he's trying to help new stars. And by getting a victory over him, a name like him, he knows that can help. But the way that they've done this so far is they've almost, like you said, they've made John Cena look like a child, or at least a non-threat is a better way to put it. He looks like a shell of himself. Where's the confidence? Where's the John Cena that we want to know, we remember, and the one that we want to be in these matches? Instead, he's out there pretending that, if I lose this match, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, that's the problem I have. And having Solo Sikoa come out there and dominate John Cena, like you said, Solo Sikoa is a guy that I look at and I say, yeah, he's the enforcer of the bloodline, but I don't look at him and go, oh man, that's the guy for the next 10 years. And a victory like this would indicate that WWE feels like that is our guy for the next 10 years. And the fans are going, yeah, he's a badass, but like, that was a pretty big victory in the way he won. To do what you just did, damage John Cena's current character. At the same time, you better hope that you get the benefit you want out of this victory, because if you don't, you're looking at another Austin Theory fallout, which was devastating for his character.
And I just keep looking back at that Kevin Owens loss to Steve Austin, and I think that could have been something viewed, and I don't know, man, like if John Cena comes back between now and Royal Rumble, like that visual of him just being destroyed by Solo Sikoa, do you not find it's going to just seem a bit bizarre?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I totally agree. But to most fans, they have the memory of a goldfish where they're just kind of like, oh, well, that was so long ago. John Cena's back now. I mean, you know how it's going to go. He's going to get a pop. He'll cut a good promo, and then people will be reinvested, and they'll be right back into it. I don't think that in 2 months, presumably when he returns around Rumble or even February around Chamber or something, when he finds out who his opponent's going to be for Mania, that the fans are going to go, oh, but he got destroyed by Solo Sikoa. I don't know if I want to see this. John Cena's probably going to lose. no, honestly, like most fans will look at that and probably their mind will be erased and they'll move on. I really think that. But the one final point I want to make very quickly, and then we'll move on to the next match, is Rey Mysterio is 48 years old. John Cena is 46. Rey Mysterio moves around like he's 28. I mean,
he's not 60. That's another thing. Like, it's just like, how old are we supposed? Yes, he has a bald spot and it looks terrible. I agree. Yeah, it's really bad. I don't get. The guy had a crew cut his entire life, and now he's like insisting on growing out his hair. I don't get it. So
I know. It's
it's just like, okay, man, whatever. But it's like, why are we being sold like he's like this, like he's falling apart, like he was born in 1952? Like, I mean, Ric Flair is like still wrestling for like, but like Sting is having his retirement match and he's like old enough to be my grandfather. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I get it. Like, you can sell the over the hill part, but to me, I can't buy into the entire, like, oh, like, he's no longer a threat and he's, like, completely, like, on the back and that I don't really understand.
And he still looks like he's 20. I mean, his body's in hell. I mean, he's clearly kicking his ass at the gym and doing whatever he does to stay in shape. He hasn't lost a step when it comes to his physical appearance, but I don't know. Yeah, he's just pushing this narrative that, I'm so old. It's like, what? Yeah, exactly. What are you talking about? Undertaker went into his 50s. I mean, well into his 50s. He was like 10 years after this before he finally hung it up. As you said, Stone Cold Steve Austin in his 50s. Dwayne Johnson's 51. And he just looks, I mean, just like, why are we supposed to take John Cena any differently? I mean, I understand that's the story they want to tell. But if anyone just does a quick Google search, they're like, well, wait a minute. Like, he doesn't have any major injuries. He's in incredible shape. Does the bald spot hold some kind of power over him? I mean, like, is it the bald spot? Yeah. So I don't know.
And Randy Orton's like an impending return. I think he's 2-3 years younger than John Cena. Yeah. But everyone's gonna freak out about Randy Orton. But why? Just because he's still a full-time competitor? Like, I don't know. It was, 5 years ago when the Undertaker's gong was hit, we would like every like in their prime 28-year-old would be like quivering in their boots. And he was 55 at the time, but a 46-year-old John Cena is like this guy who might as well be coming down to the ring in a walker because he has a bald spot. Like, okay, like I get what they're trying to. I get where they're trying to go with it, and I get the story they're trying to tell. I just think that they're going too far with it, and the way that he just got obliterated by Solo for me was just too far.
LA Knight's 41. Okay.
It's not true.
So, I mean, I've got some other wrestlers here. Shinsuke Nakamura is 42. The Miz is 41. Kofi Kingston's 40. Ziggler, well, he's not there anymore. He's 41. Sheamus is 44. Finn Balor's 40. Edge, 48. Bobby Lashley, 45. AJ Styles, 44. And Randy Orton is 42. So, like, all of a sudden, I don't know. We could go on this, but yeah, I hope this opens some of your eyes, guys, because, like, this is the story they're telling, and yet all of these guys are still, some of them are in their absolute prime right now. And we just had a 41-year-old main event, a pay-per-view in which some of you believed that he could actually beat Roman Reigns. So, yeah, this whole John Cena's old stuff needs to be just forgotten.
Well, like, and it's like, again, like, yes, you could tell the story that he's not, like, he can't hang with the Rollins and the McIntyres and the Romans anymore, let's say, on a week-to-week basis. But you're telling me that he's so old that he's getting squashed by Umaga 2.0? The guy who's, like, in a trance when he looks at his thumb? Like, he's a Neanderthal. Like, come on. Like, he comes to a ring with a ripped-up towel on his head to a guy playing deep bass notes. Like, I don't know. Like, I've watched that, and I was just like, when Roman squashed him at SummerSlam, I'm just like, okay, I get it. That I kind of understand. But Solo Sikoa, that to me was a step too far. Like, if Solo was going to win, it had to be in, like, a hard-fought match. And then you could have played it up as, like, Solo finally, like, he overcame the greatest of all time and all this stuff. But like for him to just steamroll John Cena, like to me that doesn't elevate Solo to like this like meteoric level. It kind of just tells me that like John Cena's garbage now. Like he's just this old, might as well be 60-year-old man who's just breaking down. And for me, now you're going to try and bring John Cena back as like a credible threat. Like before last night, I'm just like, man, like if LA Knight isn't in a championship match, he could go against John Cena at WrestleMania. You know, we talked about Edge before Edge defected to AEW, who's also old, by the way. Drew McIntyre. Like I thought that Drew McIntyre versus John Cena could have been a big time match at a pay-per-view. Maybe Seth Rollins. Like, could John Cena break the record of Ric Flair for 16 championships? But no, now all of those things go out the window because to me, you've dumbed him down to someone being squashed by Solo Sikoa. And I understand Enforcer, Bloodline, Umaga 2.0. I love my thumb. I get the entire gimmick. But it's Solo Sikoa. Let's remember who we're talking about here. This isn't the reincarnation of Hulk Hogan.
One more stat, and then we'll move on to a different match here. Let's put this into perspective. Hulk Hogan was 49 when he main evented WrestleMania. Well, he had that match in Toronto with The Rock. He was 49. All right, so let's all just take a step back. All right, well, let's move on here. We've got
it's a valid point. I think that is good that we broke that all down.
It's important, yeah, because if you didn't look it up, you're probably like, yeah, he does look kind of old, the bald spot. His face does look older.
He's pale.
Yeah, he is pale. The paleness doesn't help, and growing his hair out, he does look ridiculous with his hair being grown out. But yeah, all that you're like, yeah, he's probably in his low 50s. Like that's what they're trying to do. But all you have to do is just a very simple Google search and be like, well, actually, half the guys right now on the roster are in their 40s. So it's like, what? Anyway. All right, so moving on, the women's 5-way with Rhea, Nia, Raquel, Shayna, Zoe. Nia Jax, as you and I have said, not our favorite character and probably would have been better without her, but she's there, and Rhea Ripley gets the victory. And I was hoping maybe that it wasn't going to be Zoe Stark in there to take the pinfall, but no, she was there to take the pinfall, and Rhea Ripley retains. What are your thoughts on this?
Not a lot to say on it. I actually think the women did a good job, save for Nia Jax. Like, she took some falls that were of like the most unathletic nature off of the second rope, which is weird because when she was coming to the ring, I actually mentioned to my friend and he concurred, like it looked like she got herself into better shape. I don't know what the afro is about. I'm not sure why that was deemed a good idea, but I mean, to each his own. But she looks like she's gotten herself into better shape. But some of the ways she falls, and like, I don't know if you saw when she broke up a count with a kick.
Yes.
And it just looked like she rubbed her foot. I think it was Shayna Baszler, maybe so was Stark. Like, I don't even think she got like an inch off the ground. It's like she just nudged Zoe Stark with her shin or something. But she really didn't bring a lot to this match. And I do think there are ways to use Nia Jax in a advantageous way. But in these like multi-women matches, especially with women as talented as Zoe Stark, who I thought really impressed, Shayna Baszler, all the other 4 women who are really good, I thought that it really highlighted Nia Jax's, I guess, shortcomings, to put it nicely. Because I think the other 4 women put on a hell of a match. And I think that had you had just a fatal 4-way match, we would be looking at this way more fondly. And I don't like taking drive-bys at Nia Jax. I also think that it just wasn't good on Creative's part to kind of shoehorn her into this position. Because I thought the finish was pretty cool. I thought Rhea looked dominant. Another predictable outcome, but not a bad one. You had to find a way to make Rhea look dominant against her female compatriots because she's been way too entangled with the male side of the roster for the vast majority of her title run. I just thought that Nia Jax, like overt shortcomings were way too evident here.
Yeah, she did stand out like a sore thumb given her
afro.
Yeah, her afro. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was with the hair problems last night, but there were some. Yeah. But certainly, yeah, Nia Jax is just honestly like I think she's a danger in the ring, but not necessarily because she's careless, but because she's just, her body type is so different. It forces her to work different at a different pace than the other women, which forces the timings to be adjusted and increases risk. So I think is the biggest reason. And honestly, she's probably going to be shorten her career. She's already had knee injuries and knee problems because physics, guys. I mean, like physics, math, weight. It all just it does not exempt anyone from it, even if it doesn't, if it's something people don't want to talk about. And that's why Nia Jax has been involved partly in so many injuries. But that wasn't the issue here. It was just that it was the laziest breakup, as you said. Like she just like tapped somebody. I'm like, why are we selling this? Like, don't sell it. That shouldn't be a breakup. It was the laziest breakup of a pin I've ever seen in my life. And she obviously gets winded much quicker than the other women because, again, guys, science. It just is what it is. But I like Zoe Stark in this match. I think she, to me, is one of the biggest winners, even though she didn't win. She hit the Z360 on Ripley. I thought that was a possibility she could win there. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it is Rhea Ripley, who it should have been. So any closeouts on this match before we continue?
Just an example of winning and a loss. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep, exactly right.
Okay. And she took the pinfall, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. But that actually doesn't bother me because she got moments in this. So, yep. All right, here we go. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. One that I said to everybody, I said, I would not, if you have money on any kind of wrestling match, stay the hell away from this one. There's too many variables, especially with the Miss Senior Money in the Bank coming out. Now, the problem with that is you knew the second that we had Damian Priest come out that there's no way he's going to cash in because he has a match later in the night, and he's not going to have a match unless if it's with the World Heavyweight Championship. And then, I know that some people thought, oh, well, we could have Cody win that, and all of a sudden it's a world title match. That's not the way they want to tell the Cody story, and that he was just kind of, he lucked into a championship match. So I knew immediately that there was no chance that he would win it because he had a match later in the night. But I'll toss it to you for your thoughts on the outcome of Seth retaining.
First thing before we get into the actual match, I think I found the perfect scenario for Roman Reigns' run to come to an end. Cody Rhodes beats him, main event of WrestleMania. He completes the story, instant cash in, and we get to see Cody Rhodes' story get pissed on at the same time.
Sign me up. Yes.
Never going to happen, but moving on here. I think it was match of the night. Like you said, it was very unpredictable, and one of the situations where unpredictability is the better option. And I think it was one of those scenarios where either outcome would have been good, because I want Drew as champion, you want Drew as champion. We both predicted Drew to win, but him losing isn't the end of the world. And they told a good story after, behind the scenes in the backstage area with Rhea Ripley. What'd she say? Like, what are you going to do? She just looked at him. She just
looked at him and basically looked at him with her body language and said, "Man, I told you we could have helped you." That's what she didn't say anything, but that's what she was looking like.
Yeah, and it tells a good story. And unlike Roman Reigns, there's still tread left on the tires of Seth Rollins as the World Heavyweight Champion. And I think that him beating Drew clean tells almost a better story in terms of the slow burn of a Drew heel turn, because he's slowly starting to lose matches clean, because he lost to Gunther clean as well, did he not? Yeah. At SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship. So, I mean, this is like a slow descent for this version of Drew. So, and given how crappy the crowd was, I mean, would Drew have wanted to get his first major title win in front of people, be in front of that crowd? Not as if they could have forecasted that, but it kind of played out well. So I predicted Drew, but one of those situations that, even though I want to see Drew as champion, I kind of think that maybe they made the right call with it.
Yeah, I don't hate this. You said this was a win-win for me, because Seth Rollins, while there is still tread on the tire, to me, there's not a lot of tread left on it. I'm kind of ready for things to move on in that respect. not every run needs to be a Roman Reigns run. And to me, it's been 6 months since May, and I've been ready, but that's okay because this is a furthering of the Drew story, which is going to become increasingly more desperate, increasingly more dark, where he gets, he's starting to sink into the darkness. That's the story they're telling, where he was teasing it for a while. It seemed like he pulled away, and now he's realizing, if I need, for my own sanity, if I want to start winning, I may need to do things I don't want to do, but I have to. And that is the story they're telling. And I like that. I want to see what that looks like with Drew from week to week, how he starts to slowly turn on the crowd. Maybe you start to see him in the background talking to Rhea Ripley again. Like, this is a fun story that they're telling here, and I am all about it because we are going to see a Drew heel turn. That, I think, was the story for Drew coming out of this. He's not hurt at all by this loss. So Seth winning too, no problem. I thought we were going to see the Judgment Day at ringside. We didn't, and that's okay too. This was a straightforward, no outside nonsense. We certainly get enough of that in Roman's championship matches, so that was a nice, refreshing thing. And some of these near falls were very convincing. The Claymore, I thought, maybe that is it. And they had some really nice chemistry. I'm looking at the time here. I think the match was 18 minutes, and it didn't feel like 18. They did a nice job of pacing. I mean, I could watch these two work every single Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think that we're going to see more of this. The big thing here is that they're doing war games again, and I don't know how that factors into like one-on-one matches. Did they have no? Because Roman Reigns had both world titles last year, and he was involved in the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes, and who was it? Brutes, Kevin Owens, and Drew. Yeah, so I hope that we see Drew get a second crack at Survivor Series. That would be a really cool stage for him and a cool platform to win the championship. Because by that point, Seth Rollins will have passed 6 months, and I do agree there's not a whole lot of runway left for him. But, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they pull the trigger on Drew. Because would you agree that it's a question of when, not if, Drew dethrones Seth? Like, it has to be him, right?
Yeah, because I think, as we alluded to earlier, the piece of the puzzle for LA Knight to win the Rumble, and if he's not challenging Roman, because Cody is, that's the only slot he can fit in. You got to have a heel champion. You wouldn't do Seth Rollins versus LA Knight. So I think you're going to have LA Knight versus Drew McIntyre on the Raw side of things for the championship, or maybe a triple threat. You could throw Seth in there, but I think that's right.
And I think Drew and LA Knight have a history going back to TNA, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it's going to be Drew. It should be Drew, and I just hope it's at Survivor Series, because even Survivor Series, you've talked about it, I've talked about it, it's kind of adopted a gimmicky vibe to it, whether that's SmackDown versus Raw, whether that's War Games. I just think that you have to kind of make it feel more important, like one of the big four pay-per-views, like when Roman Reigns won his first ever WWE Championship in 2015, or the Big Show won in a triple threat match with Rock and Triple H in 1999. You have to make that championship, like that pay-per-view, feel like an importance as far as championships go. You know, it was the first ever place we saw in the Elimination Chamber when Shawn Michaels won his only singles championships upon his return in 2002 in that run. So, I mean, I think Survivor Series would be a very good spot for Drew McIntyre to finally get his victory.
Yeah, I think it would too. And I think even though this year, though, it is confirmed that it's War Games. I mean, we saw a few promos for Survivor Series during the PLE here, and it is War Games. So, which I don't like it. I mean, it's better than SmackDown versus Raw in some respects, but it takes away so much, because you're sucking so many guys that otherwise could have great singles matches into a main event that really has nothing to do with anything. The rules make no sense. It's exhibition style. So it's just, again, another, I hate to say it, in some ways, a throwaway pay-per-view. And you can have other matches on the card that actually have consequences and have titles on the line, but you know that a lot of the if it's 5-on-5 for men and women, then you're going to have a whole lot of stars in there that are just there for exhibition reasons, and you're not going to have a December pay-per-view. So that means you are at the Rumble after this. So there's no more playing around. I don't know. They're going to War Games. So the other thing about this event, they had a propaganda piece with, I think it was Bailey and LA Knight and a couple others talking about how great the city of Saudi Arabia is, which, hey, I'll leave that propaganda piece alone. They always seem to have some kind of agreement with the government of, hey, you guys need to put in a piece about the event, in the event, that just really tells everybody how great our city is. But, you do a very quick Google search and, you could come up with some very different opinions on the reality of what's going on there. But that said, as far as, this whole thing goes with Seth and Drew, I think we're going to have probably a title change. And maybe that's my question to you. Where do you think the title change actually takes place? So could it take place on a Monday Night Raw if Survivor Series, is not a place where they can because of the War Games match?
I mean, I guess, but is that really like a type of significant championship change you'd want on a Monday Night Raw? Like, when's the last time they changed a world title on a non pay-per-view?
Yeah, I do not know. I don't know. So, I mean, it probably isn't. I mean, it isn't something they do very often, but I think that they could do it given that there's no event in December. And they've not been shy about doing title matches at all on free TV. And sure, they could do it at Survivor Series. But I don't know what the motive is for the 5-on-5. So I'm trying to think of the, Team Who versus Team Who. I don't know who that is, but.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it would be Judgment Day plus Bloodline versus like whoever, like Cody, Jay. Like that kind of seems where it's going, right? Like Solo, Jimmy, and then 3 members of the Bloodline of Judgment Day against Sammy, Jay, all that. Like but again, it seems so tiresome, right? Like, is that something you want to see?
No. Sorry. I think the concept of War Games sucks. I mean, it sucks. Guys, I'm sorry. I know all of you, it's got 2 rings. It's got 10 guys, and the match doesn't even start until everyone's in the ring. So basically you're telling me I don't need to watch until the bell rings. Like, so what am I watching the other 75% of the match for if it means nothing? Well, one team has an advantage. Well, how do they have an advantage if you can't eliminate anybody until the bell rings? Explain this to me.
It'd be cool if it was elimination.
Agreed.
Like that I think, like, if if whoever got the second guy in first, and then you could just eliminate the first one, and then it was just like this domino effect where one team like that would be cool. But I don't know. I remember it seeming just a little too chaotic for me. Like, maybe I have to go back and rewatch it, but I'm pretty sure that's a WCW concept.
Oh, this is a very old. This is not WWE's invention. It's not their brainchild by any means. So, yeah, that's the next event we're looking forward to. Actually, I got to get the date because I don't know when the hell the date is. Survivor Series,
November 25th. I think.
There you go. Yeah. So that's only a few weeks, 3 weeks. So we don't have a whole lot of turnaround time. They got to crank out the matches this coming Monday night. Start setting those up as we get closer to Survivor Series. But after that, it's 2 months, over 2 months until we have the next PLE.
I don't like that. I like the December pay-per-view. Like, one that I really liked they did once in 2022 was Day One.
Yes.
But even, I loved that pay-per-view. I liked Armageddon back in the day. Like, I didn't like TLC, so I'm happy they did away with that. But I don't know. Like, you could stick in another pay-per-view, whether it's Vengeance or Armageddon or what was some New Year's resolution, because I guess you can't always do Day One because it doesn't always conveniently fall on a Saturday. But I don't know. I find the jump from Survivor Series to Royal Rumble, especially seeing as that they're both, quote, big 4 pay-per-views, way too long. Like, look at how many pay-per-views are between, SummerSlam and Survivor Series, or WrestleMania and SummerSlam. Like, okay, there's only one between Rumble and Mania, but even those ones have one pay-per-view, or at times have had 2. So I don't know. I do think it feels like way too big of a lull going 2+ months.
Well, I think that you're right, but also the fact that as WWE fans watching Roman Reigns' run the last 3.5 years, 2 months is a breeze. It's kind of just your average Roman appearance time differences. So it's kind of just like pretending we're watching Roman Reigns, and then you're like, oh, well, I'll see you in 2 months, and that's how long the next event's going to be. I mean, that's the unit of measure at this point. So, yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know why they don't have a December to remember, as you said, or like something. Yeah, I mean, I love that the day one they could do that as kind of an interim. And honestly, without that destination, it feels weird. Like it feels like things are going to drag out. Like they have to build from end of November to end of January. That's why I still believe they're going to have big matches on Raw and big matches on SmackDown that otherwise would have been put on a pay-per-view card. But since they don't have that, they're just going to have to put them on free TV. So I think we could see some really big free matches, title matches, maybe even a title change. I mean, they're almost going to be forced to do something given 8 weeks of 3-hour television for Raw. I mean, that's 24 hours of television. Am I wrong? 24 hours of straight television for Raw. They're going to have to come up with between Survivor Series and Rumble. That's a hell of a lot of television. So, all right.
Yeah, they're certainly going to have their work cut out for them to keep everyone intrigued as far as the main event scene is concerned.
No doubt about it. But all right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining me, Anthony. It's been a pleasure as always. And hey, we'll be talking again this time next week. Tomorrow, guys, we are not going to be doing a current state. This is kind of what we would have talked about anyway. So it's a bit of a blended show. Check us out next Monday night for just the current state. But hope you guys enjoyed the review. And Anthony, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to next week. And thanks for having me on.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.